So it looks like Tire Talk was a hit, and there was a comment left in there. Can you explain how to measure offset and backspacing for a wheel? So we got our wheel cleaned up and ready to be measured, and I'm going to show you how offset and backspacing is measured. So we're going to cover backspacing first because I think that is the absolute easiest way of measuring the offset of a wheel and how it mounts to a vehicle. But pretty much the lowdown is kind of how the name itself, backspacing. What is the space, the back of the wheel, right? And when we talk about the back of the wheel, you're going to start from the face, the surface that touches the hub or your brake rotor surface, like that moment, like that's your starting point of where you're going to begin to measure until the edge of the wheel. Let me show you what I mean. All right, so when you have your wheel turned over, this is obviously the back side of the wheel, you can get yourself a straight edge. Now keep in mind that it's kind of resting on the tire, it's not resting on the edge of the lip, so this measurement is not going to be perfect, but it'll be close enough for this explanation. You're going to take a tape measure and you put it onto the back of the mate surface, and this wheel is a 4-inch backspacing. Like I said, obviously the tire is a little bit taller than the lip of the wheel, so that's why it's not measuring perfectly at 4 inches. So, but this is a 4-inch backspace wheel. So that's how the backspacing is determined. Now, when you go to fit wheels to a car, right? Basically, that's how you're going to find that, all right, so if I have a wheel that's a 18-inch wheel plus, you know, X amount of sidewall of a tire makes a tire so tall, then you can kind of generally figure out on where on the car your closest contact point is. Is it a frame rail? Is it a body panel? Is it some sort of driveline component, suspension component? You know, where's the first protruding item that you can go as deep with the backspacing? Now keep in mind, the larger the backspacing, the deeper the wheel is going to sit inboard of the car. So this is 4-inch. So say I wanted to go 5-inch backspacing. Well, that's going to move the edge of this tire 1 inch inside, inboard of the body of the vehicle. And so that's how you kind of determine like how wide of a wheel can I poke inward. So being that this is a 4-inch backspacing, now what about the other side, right? So here's where you're going to measure from the other direction, which is going to be same spot, back of the mating surface of the wheel, and you're going to say we want to have perfect flush fitment, right? So then you go back of that mate surface all the way to the very edge of that fender well, right? My car isn't a perfect flush fitment for the rear wheel. For the front, I actually have poke. It actually pokes out. But say for the example, you want perfect flush, right? And so we already have 4 inches accounted for on the back side of the backspacing. Say, you know, 6 inches, you know, is going to make it perfectly flush. Well, that means you're going to take 6 plus 4, and that means you have a 10-inch wide wheel, but with a 4-inch backspacing. So it's going to be, you know, 4 inches from back of the mate surface, kind of like what we just explained. And then there's going to be 6 inches from the back of that mating surface to the outside of the wheel and toward the outside of the vehicle, okay? That's how you measure and size up wheels using backspacing. I hope that kind of helps. I hope that clears things up, because whenever you say put a wide body and you still have that 10-inch wheel, like, oh, I got a wide body, I'm going to go 2 inches wide, you know, fender flares. So we want to get a wheel that is 2 inches wider, but the inside didn't change. However, our outside body moves outward. Well, instead of you having, 6 inches, you're going to go to 8 inches. But the backspacing does not change, right? Because if you didn't change the frame rail, you didn't change the suspension, you didn't change anything that clears anything on inboard, well, guess what? That 4-inch backspacing, that's still a valid measurement, so that you don't come into contact with anything on the inside of the wheel. However, you went wider outside on the vehicle, so therefore you can increase, from back mating surface of the wheel toward the outside. That's basically how the backspacing measurement and philosophy that I have in my head works, right? So that way you can measure for whatever size wheel you possibly could squeeze within your car. So we're gonna get into measuring wheel offset, okay? Now, it's a completely different logic. It's way different than backspacing, but you still kind of have the same reference points, okay? Now, when you are trying to figure out what your offset is, you're trying to figure out where is the mate surface of the back of the wheel to the face of the rotor or hub, where is that in relation to center of the wheel, okay? So center of a wheel, doesn't matter what brand, what size, the center offset of any wheel is going to be 0 millimeters, okay? Now, if you go plug in, and it's just for the sake of time of this video and watching me fumble through math, I went and put my information of this wheel into your average offset calculator. And being that I have an 11-inch wide wheel, which I think comes out to be about 275 millimeters wide, 275 millimeters wide, which I think puts this to about 130, 140 millimeters as dead center. Then the offset of center of the wheel to the face of the rotor, which is kind of upwards, right? Because it pushes the wheel toward the outside of the vehicle in relation to the center of the wheel and where it bolts up, puts it to negative 51 millimeters. So my front wheel is a negative 51 millimeter offset, okay? Now, what is the negative offset versus the positive offset, okay? If you have a negative offset, you are moving the wheel toward the outside of the vehicle. If you have a positive offset, you are moving the wheel toward the inside of the vehicle, okay? That is the relationship between positive and negative, measurements for your wheel offset. And so generally, when you are trying to use offset as kind of like the primary means of fitting a wheel, the best method I have kind of determined to do this in is first work in millimeters, okay? Just convert everything to millimeters and you'll, then it becomes a little simpler in my mind. But first you gotta find the width of the wheel. Then you cut that number in half to find your center line. Boom, there you're at it. You're at 0, right? Then you have to think, all right, do I need to move, say, 1 inch negative, right? So it moves the wheel outward and moves that bolt surface closer inboard, right? If you do that, that means you got negative 25, not nominally, right? That's not the exact 1 inch to millimeter conversion, but 25 is close enough. So if you're using 25 for an inch, so negative 25 is going to be 1 inch bolt surface inboard and wheel shifted toward the outside of the vehicle. Just like the opposite way, say you have a positive 50 millimeter offset. Well, guess what? That means that the bolt surface is 2 inches or 50 millimeters toward the outside of the wheel, where so it'll suck the tread part toward the underbelly of the car, okay? That's important to kind of understand that concept is positive moves the wheel toward the inside of the vehicle. Negative gets you like a diesel bro. I'm just kidding. Negative offset gets you that wheel to poke toward the outside of the vehicle. That is a relationship between your positive and your negative. So I hope this helped. I hope it helped to explain things a little bit better. Something else with wheel offset. So say you know your wheel offset is -30, right? So if you have a -30 offset right now on your car, and you say, well, I need like a half an inch. I need a half an inch more to poke the tire outward so it's flush with the fender, right? So if I have -30 millimeters and I need to go half an inch, well, roughly 12 millimeters is going to be that half an inch. So 12 millimeters plus your you'll want to go -12 millimeters plus that -30 millimeter, and that's going to get you to -42 millimeter. There's your offset that you need to get that flush fitment per the example. So again, I hope this helps. I hope this explanation, because I try to simplify it as best I can, and I know we're probably moving on to like a 15-minute video explanation of how to measure these wheels and how the math works here. But perhaps hearing it explained by me might help. I definitely like to have the pictures. So if my explanation, listening to the words is hard to follow, it might be better that you're just like me and you learn it visually. So all you have to think about it is backspacing is trying to find the relation of the rear mate surface to the back of the wheel, and your offset is figuring out how far the back of the mate surface is from center of the wheel. That kind of drums it up. I sure hope this helps. And if you have any other questions, we can definitely discuss that down in the comments below. Make sure you hit the like button. And if I'm wrong, I can't wait to talk about it. But if you are new to the channel and you're just discovering this kind of tech talk, I guess you could say tire talk, tech talk, why don't you go ahead and think about subscribing, and there will be more to come. Thank you.